Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about T1 and spin lattice and what it really is. So when we look at spin lattice, we're really talking about T1, or the recovery of longitudinal magnetization. Now we can graph this out and try to picture it visually, and which is what we're going to do. But when we think about it, we're delivering an RF pulse to our patient, and we're exciting hydrogen. We're increasing their energy state, which drives down longitudinal magnetization. Because at rest, hydrogen are all aligned parallel and anti-parallel to our B0. And we develop this net magnetism, or this accumulated magnetization in a specific direction, our B0. So we have an abundant amount of hydrogen in our B0, in the direction of our B0, creating this net magnetism in that direction. When this RF pulse comes in contact with those hydrogen, we drive down that longitudinal magnetization, that net magnetism, and we place it into the transverse plane. Now, we could graph this out. If I were to draw a graph, and since we're talking about spin lattice, we need to discuss what's happening to our longitudinal magnetization. So I'm going to put our longitudinal magnetization over on this side. And we're going to graph out what happens over a period of time. Now, at rest, hydrogen are at maximum longitudinal magnetization, right? We have this net magnetism in the longitudinal plane. So we're going to say we have maximum transverse magnetization. I'll put 100% up here as well. Now when we deliver this RF pulse to our patient, we drive down our net magnetism. We drive down this longitudinal magnetization. All right, so we drive that down. Once we turn that RF transmitter off, we're going to start to regain this longitudinal magnetization. We're going to start to regain this over a duration of time. All right? So we regain this over a period of time until we get to a specific point where we have all that longitudinal magnetization regained and we're back to where we started. Let's just call this tissue fat or adipose tissue. Now, every tissue has its unique signature T1 recovery. In other words, it's going to recover its longitudinal magnetization at different rates. So we can say that I have fluid. Prior to excitation, we have maximum signal from our fluid. After RF pulse, we drive that down. And over a duration of time, we regain that longitudinal magnetization in that tissue. Now, every tissue regains this slightly different, and it's based on its molecular structure. Fat is a very large molecule, so it has a slow tumble. So it regains, it's very efficient at getting rid of this extra energy. So it regains this longitudinal magnetization fairly rapidly. Where fluid is a very small molecule, very rapid spin to it, tumble, and it's going to regain its longitudinal magnetization really slowly. And when we're looking at this graph, we can call this a T1 graph. We can call this a T1 curve. So we're looking at the T1 of a tissue, how it recovers its longitudinal magnetization. And when we're trying to find an optimal T1, I want to find a period of time where we have at least 63% of our longitudinal magnetization recovered in our tissue. And the goal here too, when we're looking at what is an optimal T1, is where do we find the largest differences between these tissues? I could say maybe here would be a good period of time to measure to get an optimal T1 of my tissue, to get T1 contrast in my image, where I can see large differences between fat and fluid. And this might equate to something like 400 milliseconds. Now, TR controls T1 contrast. So if I set my TR at 400, I would stop the recovery of longitudinal magnetization at this point and start over. So I would encode this difference in recovery of longitudinal magnetization in my image. All right, so I'd start over, and I would be encoding this difference in my image, whatever TR that I select. All right? Now that's essentially T1 contrast and our spin lattice and describing what these are. So we're really looking at what's happening to our longitudinal magnetization when we're trying to understand that T1. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.